Hi everybody, welcome to the Ryokan experience, courtesy of the Real Japan. If you're viewing on HAPS or anywhere else, be sure to leave a comment in the chat so I know that you're here and where you're viewing from. Just be good to know. I'll leave it a few minutes before we dive into the detail, just to allow people time to log in. And if you're watching on the replay, thanks for watching. I'll be adding some links during the live broadcast, which will still be valid for a few days after the live stream. So be sure to use those links if you're watching the replay. We'll be talking today about the Ryokan experience, and Ryokan are, sorry, let me put myself on camera for you there. So Ryokan are traditional Japanese inns, places there where travelers stop along the way to eat and sleep, and if they've got an onsen, which is a natural hot spring, to soak overnight before moving on to their travels the following morning. That's the traditional way they're used. These days, they're used more as a sort of recreational thing to sort of just chill out and relax, take some time out. For if you've never been to Japan, or you've been but you've never been to a Ryokan before, I always say it's kind of like the ultimate Real Japan experience. It's a completely immersive cultural experience. So if you've not done it yet, I always highly recommend going to a Ryokan. Sorry, there's notifications on the phone coming through there. I'll switch it off. For those of you who haven't spotted, I'm doing a giveaway that's connected to today's topic, which is I'm giving away a copy of a book by Tuttle Publishing called Japanese Inns and Hot Springs. I've got a copy here, actually. So I've got 5 copies of the book, courtesy of Tuttle, to give away. That's in I do a monthly giveaway on the Real Japan, therealjapan.com. So I've got 5 copies of the book to give away, which I'll be giving you details of today. So go over to the website if you haven't already, pop on there. Oh, hi Yamo, good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Looks like you're viewing on YouTube, is that right? Yeah, I'll pop a link. I'll put it up on the screen for you now, so you've got that. But basically, you can enter the giveaway. It's free to enter. You just subscribe to the Real Japan website, and I've got 5 copies of the book to give away. And the closing date for entries is this Friday, the 26th, and it closes on midnight, so that's Pacific time in the US. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a short video, which is about the Ryokan and the March giveaway, and then I'll dive into some details and we can discuss the book a bit more. Oh, hi Yama, yeah, thanks. So you're waiting for dinner? Yeah, I'll be getting mine after I've done the broadcast. So thanks for popping by. Sorry, I had the mic on mute there. Apologies for that. Thanks, Giamo. Thanks for pointing that out. Sorry. So what I was going to say was, what are Ryokan? There's a traditional wooden inns, a place for travellers to eat and sleep and to soak in the natural hot springs. So they offer accommodation, they offer food, and the healing waters, because the waters where they're built are typically they have what would you call it, the natural healing qualities in the water, I suppose you would say. And so that's one of the reasons that people would be attracted to them. The other thing that people are attracted to them for is their local food, the kaiseki meals that they serve. So the meals will always draw on local foods and produce. So if they're by the ocean, they'll typically draw on local seafoods, the local fish, and so on. So those are things that a lot of people are attracted to. But I would say that not all Ryokan are equal. And what I mean by that is you can find Ryokan in city centres. That is possible. And you can find quite contemporary styled Ryokan. So there'll be more modern style, kind of modern architecture, a bit more resort style. But for me, a Ryokan, I much prefer the traditional ones that are in the countryside, more rural, more quiet, usually run sort of small family operations. For me, it's all about getting away from the city and getting into the countryside. So the countryside is always going to get my vote. Seasons, in terms of seasons, any time of the year is great to visit a Ryokan. And I would say the only thing I would suggest is maybe avoid the height of summer due to the high humidity, because a lot of springs, natural hot springs, obviously they're going to be hot. So you won't want to be soaking those in the height of summer. So that high humidity and those high water temperatures is going to be a pretty horrible combination. But any of the other three main seasons, so spring is going to be fantastic because you're going to have cherry blossoms to be viewed in some places. Autumn is a glorious season to go to Ryokan because you're going to have the autumn leaves, the red leaves, the koyo. So that's a great season to go to visit Ryokan, especially obviously in the mountains and the countryside. And then in winter, you've got the snow of winter. So that's absolutely idyllic. For me, winter's probably going to edge it out of all the seasons. I think for me, that's probably the best of all of them. I would say, because you've got the natural hot water and you can literally soak in them with the snow falling on you. It's absolutely kind of a magical experience. The other thing about Ryokan is the whole unrivaled sort of customer service experience. The whole irashaimase, they'll say, is to welcome you. So you take off your shoes and you just enter Japanese culture when you go through the door. So it's a traditional style. So it's shoes off at the door, slippers when you're inside, and then just barefoot or socks in the tatami rooms when you're in your room. You won't be expected to carry your luggage, and you'll get a welcome drink and a local snack on arrival, usually when you come in. There'll be maid service in your room. So, and the smaller, more traditional Ryokan will serve your dinner and foods, your meals, sorry, in your room. And when you're out soaking in the onsen, your room will magically transform into your bedroom with a futon mattress on the floor. So the maids will come in while you're either soaking in the onsen outside, or if there's a separate room for dining, while you're dining, you will have your dinner, you'll come back to your room and it'll be automatically set up for your bed with traditional futon. Another major attraction for going out into the countryside and choosing a rural Ryokan as opposed to a city one would be to take in the views from the local landscape. Again, this is a major attraction, and you can see in this photo here, this is taken sort of in the autumn season. Again, a major attraction for a lot of regional ryokan in the countryside and those in the mountains. For a lot of people, and even for modern Japanese, going to ryokan is about embracing Japanese traditions and culture. So even a lot of Japanese would say that they don't really use onsen much or ryokan very often. A few years ago, sort of 10, maybe 15 years ago, there was a real worry that ryokan were going to completely disappear because they faded from popularity. They were seen as kind of the preserve of the older generation, if you like. Whereas there's been a bit of a revival, and I think things like social media and certainly things like Instagram, where younger people are going to these and they're so sort of photogenic and idyllic looking that it's hardly surprising that there've been a bit of a hit on social media. So the fact that younger people are starting to go to them is meaning that they're changing the perception, changing perceptions of ryokan, and they're not closing at the rate that they were, and indeed some are still opening. A lot of people used to stay in them traditionally, but it's less than it was. But a lot of people now see them as opportunities to embrace their own culture, even if they're Japanese. So it's not something that everybody does, and it's not something that everybody does sorry, on a regular basis. But it's seen as a bit of a treat. But for me, it's an essential. I always stay in a ryokan, and I always encourage people to stay in a ryokan whenever you're traveling. The other thing, if you're staying in a countryside or mountain, a rural area, then walks in the nearby countryside are definitely a major reason to do ryokan and to stay in them. A couple of sort of practical things to look out for. One is that a lot of ryokan will still only take cash. Japan is quite still a cash culture. Credit cards obviously are everywhere, but they're not. Smaller places tend not to take credit cards, and ryokan generally, even some large ryokan, only want to take payment in cash. So although a few will take credit cards, it is best to check beforehand. So when you're making your booking, just be sure to make sure that you can pay by credit card if you want to, or if they do require you to pay cash, make sure you've been to a bank or an ATM before you're going there to make sure you've got enough cash to pay for it when you depart on the following morning. You might, if they do take credit cards, they'll take your credit card details typically when you arrive, but they won't charge you until you leave in the morning. And the same with cash. If it's cash, then you just pay on departure. Hi, Yamo. Yeah, it's good to know that you'll want to stay in a ryokan. Yeah, and I know it's not easy to plan exactly when the next trip will be, but hopefully it won't be too long before we can all get back out there. The other thing to look out for is if they're sort of quite remote locations for the ryokan, is a lot of them will often offer you free transfers. So if you can get a train to like a nearby train station, or even I've done this, a highway junction where you might get a bus so far and get dropped off at a highway junction, and then you phone them and let them know, or you prearrange a time. Then the owners of the ryokan will come and meet you in their car or a little minibus or something. So typically those transfers are free. So just check that in advance, particularly if it's remote and you can't get there if you're not driving yourself. The other thing to look out for, if we go back to this kind of the food subject matter, if you're not keen on sashimi, raw fish, or even if you're not a fan of sushi, and you've got Western dietary requirements, then just let them know in advance. It won't be too much of a problem. But to let them know in advance, then they can prepare the food, because the food is brought in daily for the meals. So if you just let them know in advance that, you know, if you've got any special or Western dietary requirements, if you really don't like raw fish, just let them know. It's fine. You know, they'll typically offer you beef as the next option if beef's okay for you. If you are vegetarian or vegan, that's in a way almost less likely to be a problem. There are Ryokan that are vegetarian only. Again, obviously, if you've got any special dietary requirements, just check in advance, and I'm sure most of them will be able to accommodate you. Another pro tip, if you like, is if you're planning on leaving early in the morning, and you won't be able to eat breakfast in the Ryokan, and that's included in your plan. It typically will be. Most Ryokan you can book as accommodation only, accommodation and breakfast. That's the most common one, and sort of full board, where when you arrive in the afternoon, typically you'll relax for a few hours, have dinner in the evening, either served in your room or a dining room if they have one, and then breakfast in the following morning. But if you can't, for whatever reason, have the breakfast and it's included in your plan, this has happened to us a few times when we've been traveling, is let them know in advance that you're planning on leaving early. You might even just, if you're staying for a few days, you might just be going out for a day trip or something, but you've paid for that food in your plan, so don't miss out on it. Just ask them for a packed breakfast like you'd do a bento lunch, and they'll be happy to prepare a packed breakfast for you so that it's ready for you when you leave first thing in the morning. And you can take it and eat it on the go. I've actually done that a few times. It's quite a good thing to do. I just pop up a picture here of just to give you an idea for how these kaiseki meals work. So these are the meals that might be sort of typically 12 courses in length. This is one meal where the chef is designing this to look like the local landscape. So the radish that you can see cutting across the plate at an angle, that's a radish, and that's designed to be the side of the mountain. And the egg is supposed, the yolk of the egg that you can see is supposed to be the moon in the sky. So this is the moon over a mountain. So this is the kind of cuisine that you can expect, the kaiseki cuisine, the multi-dish courses that you get in these places. So you can understand why so many people go to these places just for the dining experience. So back to the giveaway that I mentioned at the top of the live stream. Good Ryokan guidebooks in English are pretty uncommon, actually. Excuse me while I take a sip. There's only a handful of them really that are any good, and Tuttle Publishing, big American publisher and Japan publisher that you might know, they've published the book that I mentioned earlier, this one, Japanese Inns and Hot Springs, a guide to Japan's best Ryokan and onsen, and it is just that. It's an excellent book, actually. It's a guide to 40, what they consider 40 of the best Ryokan and onsen in Japan. So these are all ones that have, these are all Ryokan that have a natural hot spring attached, which is the kind of golden combination that you're going to be looking for. If you're not familiar with the book, then search for Japanese Inns on the Real Japan website. There's a review of the book on there. So you can find it just by searching. If you go to the realjapan.com and search for Japanese Inns, you'll find my review and you can read it. It's quite an in-depth review. It's got a lot of photos from the book. I'll put some photos from the book up, actually. So this is the book cover, and I'll just cycle through a few photos from the book so you can see what to expect inside. Also, if you're on the website, search for Ryokan, which is Ryokan, and beyond this specific book review that's on the website, which you can see, I've also got reviews of Ryokan, some of the Ryokan that I've stayed in, and there's also posts about Ryokan, using them. There's also a number of posts about onsen, using natural hot springs, public baths, that sort of thing. And also there's, for example, there's some articles, posts about specific resorts like Kinosaki Onsen, which is a lovely onsen north of Kyoto, and that's a natural hot spring village, and it's got 7 natural public baths there, and that's 7 natural hot springs which have built public baths around, and they're all tattoo friendly, so they're really good for foreigners. So if you've got tattoos don't always go down well in onsen because, you know, of the kind of connotations with Japanese mafia, who typically wear or have tattoos. Places like Kinosaki are universally welcoming to those with tattoos. So again, have a look on the website. There's some good resources on there for learning about Ryokan etiquette, if you like, and onsens. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone's got any questions, either about the book, Ryokan in general, or the website, or the giveaway that we're running. So between every month on therealjapan.com, I do a giveaway. So March's giveaways, I'm giving away 5 copies of the book today, Japanese Inns and Hot Springs. So enter on the website at therealjapan.com/giveaway. Yamo, you're saying not true, not that many English resources. Oh, that's true, sorry. Yeah, not many English resources available. That said, even my few friends living in Japan aren't familiar with them, at least to make any confident recommendations. Yeah, that's a good point, Yamo. This is what I was alluding to earlier when I was saying that a lot of Japanese, you know, it's not a regular thing for Japanese. I guess it's like, I'm from the UK, so it's like if you were a tourist and you're coming to the UK, you go to London and you want to go on a red bus, you know, unless you're in London, you're not going to come to London and just tour on a red bus. It's not something that you do because you're English. You know, it's that kind of thing almost. Or go for high tea, like afternoon tea. I've done that once in a while, but it's not something we do on a regular basis. So yeah, it's good to point it out. But it is a really fantastic experience, and it doesn't matter what background you're from, whether you're Japanese or non-Japanese. I would thoroughly recommend staying at a Ryokan. Okay, so we've been running for almost half an hour. If there's no more questions, what I'll do is I'll just run the video that I've got for the giveaway again, just so that you can see that. And then I'll pop back into the questions to see in the chat to see if there's any comments, further questions, and we can take it from there. Thanks, Yamo. So you had a question about is there a good online site to make reservations or do recommend making them while in Japan? I think actually it's quite easy to make bookings through major sites now, like booking.com, for example, is a good one. They've, in the last sort of 2 to 3 years, but last 2 years probably, they've really added quite a lot of new traditional Japanese accommodation to their site. So definitely, if you want to keep things simple, if you want to keep things simple, then just go to booking.com. There is on the website, if you go to therealjapan.com and search for Ryokan, there are some resources in the articles that are on there. There is a website called Jalan, Jalan, I think it's .net. That's kind of traditional Japanese accommodation. And there's Japanese guest houses. I think Japanese-guesthouses.com, I think it possibly is. Again, those sites are, Japanese guest houses is a bit more foreigner friendly than Jalan. Jalan is a little bit more geared towards the Japanese and local market. So there you might have a bit more trouble if you don't speak Japanese. You can book them, certainly you can book them well in advance, and a lot of Japanese accommodation can be cancelled pretty late in the day. So it's not a problem if you make bookings well in advance, only to sort of cancel them a few days out. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be hit for a fee. So look out for that. But definitely, that's why booking.com just keeps everything simple. It's a major site. They've got lots of really good Ryokan on there now. And I use it myself to keep things simple sometimes. So I don't see any reason why, if you want to, just book those in advance. And again, they've got quite good refund policies on there for cancellations, sometimes up until the day before, 24 hours. So that's the one to look out for, I would suggest. Okay. So I think that's probably it for today. Thanks everybody who's popped in live. I could see quite a few of you watching, but not leaving comments. That's absolutely fine. Just good. I hope you got something valuable out of today's live stream. If you're watching on the broadcast, thanks again for watching in. Be sure to follow me. If you're inviting any friends to join, please ask them to join on HAPS. Download the HAPS app. You'll get 100 free coins from me for joining, which you can use to share on broadcasters like myself to support our broadcasts. And okay, so I'm gonna head off, and I'll leave you one last time with the video for the giveaway. Again, if you want to go to it, it's therealjapan.com/giveaway, and good luck if you're entering. And thanks again for watching the live stream, and I'll see you all again soon, I hope.